Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Oscar's Cafe Corner. Today's date is post Super Bowl weekend and everything that's transpired in the last 72 hours, I believe, including some bets that I made over the weekend that, as some of you have seen, my profile picture changed. Even in the YouTube page, I didn't change my banner because that was not on the bet, but I did change the profile pics and a couple of those updates. So I want to tell some of you listeners and the fans basically some of the things that happened over the weekend and some changes, and also my opinion on a couple things. So before I dive into the content of this particular episode, this is what transpired. So this weekend we had the Super Bowl, which everybody saw. So I'm going to speak on that. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened during the game, what transpired, my opinion of the entire thing, how I feel about the Seattle Seahawks, which a lot of you know, but at the same time, I do have to give them their flowers. I have to give mad respect to the team that I think at the beginning of the year, nobody really thought that Sam Darnold was going to get as far as he did. I did not expect their defense to be as put together as it was. I didn't think Mike McDonald was going to be able to pull through. I thought he was going to run into a buzzsaw in the Rams, and that didn't happen. With the Niners being so injured the entire season, it was very difficult for me to envision my own team to actually make it as far as they did. Now, them beating the Philadelphia Eagles obviously was a plus, and it was phenomenal for me to see, and I'm happy about that. But at the same time, I do want to touch on the actual game and the content. So if you guys don't know, I did mention in the previous episode that I was going to be placing some bets, and unfortunately, they did not go as well as I thought. They were underwhelming. Basically, the results that I thought I was going to get from those bets just didn't pan out. I went on Prize Picks. No, they don't pay me for this, but I do use them often. I went on Prize Picks and I bet the over on a lot of stuff because I figured that with the Seahawks, and I would at least thought that maybe New England was going to be able to provide some sort of competitiveness to the game. I did not envision the game to be so boring. For first time like viewers of people that are watching the Super Bowl, and every single year is different, right? You have a brand new generation that's engaging into the sport and engaging into their own teams, whether they're Seattle Seahawks fans or maybe they're dating somebody that is a New England Patriots fan, and maybe that's why they're watching it as supportive. It was a really bad showing. Now, for somebody who's watched football for many years, you got to give respect that the Seattle Seahawks were able to hold them down for as long as they did. You're talking about 3/4 of they basically shut the Patriots out up until the fourth quarter. But at that point, the damage was done. The Seattle was going to win. I mean, them scoring like a touchdown or two wasn't really one of those things like, oh my God, here comes the comeback. Nah, I figured I probably would have thought that they were going to be having a comeback if it had been the Chicago Bears, just because Caleb Williams has been performing that way the entire season. So it would not have surprised me if the Chicago Bears had actually made some sort of comeback to the game, but that didn't happen. But I definitely want to go into the shutout, man. I mean, let's go on my Prize Picks first. So in my Prize Picks, I picked everything over, meaning that I think I'm going to correct myself. The only under I picked was that Jackson Smith-Jigba was going to have under 91.5 yards, which he didn't have 91.5. He had 71. So I did good on there. But I thought he was going to have more receptions than he did. So the New England Patriots secondary, I would say, and maybe the cornerbacks, the defensive backs, really did a great job as far as scheming up a play against Jackson Smith-Jigba and really shut him down. So it made the team very one-dimensional, and it forced Sam Darnold, in my opinion, to try something else, like passing it over to Cooper Kupp, which he did. I did good there, and running the ball more. Kenneth Walker, I think he ran for over 137 yards, I believe, on the ground, which is phenomenal. But most of all, I think I'm more surprised with Sam Darnold did what you expect a quarterback not to do during these big big games, and that is not make mistakes. And they didn't make mistakes. He was pretty solid throughout. He was pretty consistent. He did not set up the Seattle Seahawks in a way where they would fail. Now, in Drake May's point of view, he did great enough. However, he had 2 interceptions, so that didn't go good against them, and they were just shutting him down. They tried to run the ball. It was a little bit ineffective. He tried to go to the sidelines. He was ineffective. And Josh Daniels, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, just didn't have a game plan against Seattle. Just couldn't get nothing done. Now, again, no shame on him. I don't think there's been many teams, with the exception of the Los Angeles Rams, that actually had some sort of success against the Seattle Seahawks the last half of the game, or I'm sorry, not the last half of the game. The last couple games of the season, the Seattle Seahawks have just been a really dominant team. Now, would the results have been different, or would they have been the same if they had actually lost the game versus the Rams? You guys remember when Charbonnet, when the ball went loose on a 2-point conversion, the ball bounced off somebody, and then Charbonnet just grabbed the ball and barely touched it in the end zone, and it scored for Seattle and then made them win that game in particular. I don't know if and because of that game, they actually got the first #1 seed, and they never looked back. And for me, it's interesting because I wonder if the results had been the same if they had actually had to play through the playoffs. Would they have been as successful with them not having home field advantage and actually having to travel? Would it have been the same? But again, we're getting into hypotheticals, which is really annoying as hell, because it's done. It's over. You can't go back in time and say, hey, let's play a replay. We're not going to play that game of what ifs. The point is that they won. I got to give them their flowers. But with that being said, thank goodness today's my last day that I will have to basically succumb myself to the torture, which is having my profile picture be a Seattle Seahawks logo. I'm cashing my chips today, because I think our bet was that when we finally got around to the parade where they were going to be going to Seattle, that's when I would be removing the stuff. And tomorrow morning, I'll go back to my normal logo, which some of you love and adore. Now, let's talk about Seattle in itself. Seattle is a team that is obnoxious, yes, but they have their ish together. Now, hopefully this championship gives some sort of motivation or a push for Jet York and the organization of the San Francisco 49ers to actually do something. I think this year they were way too passive on the free agency. I know they had a lot of dead cap space as far as salaries that were already committed to certain players, and that's probably what prompted them not to necessarily want to invest more. But it is what it is. We're going to wait and see what they do end up doing. Now, the one thing that I do find interesting is that the Raiders came into the mix and they made an offer to Clint Kubiak. And if you guys don't know who he is the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, or was, because he accepted the position to be the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. So a little bit of a background for you guys who don't know who he is. So a little bit of the background. He's had lots of college experience. He was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback coach for a year. Then he was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings in 2021. Then he went to the Broncos as a passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. That's kind of a position before you become the OC. And then he went to the San Francisco 49ers in 23, and he was there for about a year. Then he was officially made the offensive coordinator for the Saints in 24. Then he got hired from there and went to the New Orleans Saints in 24, and then he got hired in Seattle this past year as the offensive coordinator, and now he's the head coach. So he's had a lot of experience. I mean, his play calls are pretty solid, I'm not going to lie. He schemes up well against teams that play zone, teams that play man. And again, it all boils down to the type of players that you have around you right now. With the Raiders organization, it's actually pretty interesting what they're doing, right? So you have the general manager, Spytek. That's his last name. He has a good, solid background as a GM, and they also have Tom Brady involved and part of the decision making. So Tom Brady more than likely is kind of like the player personnel guy that's evaluating players. He's going to be the face of the franchise in the sense where if you do have some sort of apprehensions to the Raiders, you can feel comfortable that you have somebody like Tom Brady who's actually at the helm, somebody who's not reckless, doesn't make really silly, goofy ass decisions like the Raiders have been notoriously known to do. And to some extent, they've been the butt of the joke for many years. Since 2002, when they went to the Super Bowl and lost, they really have not been relevant at all. And then unfortunately, they moved from Oakland, California, and they moved to Las Vegas with this big, beautiful, gorgeous stadium that's more of a destination stadium, not really necessarily one that has a very massive fan base locally. Now, the Raiders do have a great following nationally, but as far as locally, I don't know. That is subject to interpretation based on you and what you think. But we shall see. The Raiders do have a lot going on for them, but they also need to invest in a lot of stuff. I mean, you have Genty, you have Bowers. As far as I know, you got Geno Smith still listed as the QB coach. As the quarterback for them. But however, I don't see that happening long term. I see them obviously drafting Fernando from Indiana. And he is phenomenal. He's a great QB. Now, you need to protect him, so you need to have a really solid offensive line. So you better take care of that. So hopefully the GM and Tom Brady have some tricks up their sleeve that's actually going to be able to make the Raiders relevant this year. So we shall see. Will they be a 2-14 team, or will they be 8-8? We shall see. I think I might look at the over-under on that one, see how we do. But my compadre, my brother-in-law, Pete, he's a massive Raider fan, and he's loyal to the core, and so are a few other people like that I know. My buddy Sage and Gabe, who's notoriously obnoxious and annoying as hell, but hey, they're fans, right? But hopefully they have something to root for this year. I kind of feel bad for them a little bit. They really have not been relevant. But then again, they're going up against Kansas City, who they have to beat. Then you have the Bills as well with Josh Allen, who you have to compete against. And then now you have Bo Nix, who and that team, which is pretty solid, and kind of go from there. So next season is going to be kind of a toss-up. Now, what I do find interesting is some things that a lot of the Seattle Seahawks fans need to be made aware of is that Kenneth Walker needs to be re-signed. You have a lot of free agent signings that you need to ink out or give extensions to, like ASAP. Are you going to pay Sam Darnold all this money, or are you going to wait? You're going to have to pay Jackson Smith-Jigba. You're going to have to pay Kenneth Walker, and that supporting staff in the secondary and the defense, you're going to have to pay them out. Now, supposedly, I think that the salary cap goes up for the NFL next season, so there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to have a little bit more wiggle room as far as making decisions and going from there. So we shall see. But with that being said, let's talk about my compadres and their love for the Seahawks. So a little bit about those two individuals. And the reason why I wanted to dive into that was because I want to give kudos to them. They are loyal to that team to a fault. And I can't wait to see them both. A little bit of background. One likes fishing. Actually, they both enjoy fishing and guns. That's basically what summed it up. But both of them have been blasting me about being a Niner fan and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see them for this upcoming season in August. In 6 more months, I hope to see them. But I wanted to share a funny story about these two. And it happened a few years ago. And for some of you guys that go fishing, again, I'm not an avid fisherman. I don't go fishing 24/7. I don't go out to the creeks, to the lakes, none of that. So I will never consider myself totally experienced as far as doing this. But one of the funny stories about these two folks is that they're very hands-on, right? And like I mentioned before in a previous episode, when you go out with this group, when you're with this family, my family, it's a blast from sunrise to sundown and everything else in between. Sometimes you just kind of have to force yourself to go to sleep. Otherwise, you'll stay up all night. And then this particular year, we had made a decision collectively that we were going to go fishing. Now, I remember being in my compadre John's garage, and we were looking at just his tools and just drinking beers and just hanging out, listening to good music. And then it was like 11 o'clock, and I remember that the following day we had to get up around 3:30 in the morning to get the boats and to go out on the lake, because you want to get out to the lakes as early as possible so you can get good fish. And so we had the great idea of basically drinking all night, and we were going to be drinking straight through the night, and we were going to be getting ready until 3 o'clock in the morning and go fishing, go fish for a handful of hours, come back home, and finally sleep. Now, my compadre, Pirin, he was completely against it. He was like, no, that's a bad idea. But hey, fucking everybody starts talking shit. And everybody's like, come on, man, don't be a puss. Oh, yeah, you know what, bro, forget it. Let's do it right now, right? So he hung in there. He didn't puss out. He was he was totally in it. So we started drinking. And next thing we know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we're like, damn, dude, we really need to go to bed. I was low-key getting tired. But, you get that second, juice of adrenaline, and you're just like, you know what, man, no, forget it. I'm not going to do that. And then my other family member, Martin, he's a character himself. So he's like, man, I'm staying up too. So everybody stayed up. Eventually, I think that maybe one of us, I forgot who, actually went to sleep for at least an hour and took a nap. And we stayed up. And then so finally 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning comes around, and we're all energized. We're all stoked. We start loading up the trucks. And then my compa John starts calling his brother saying, hey, let's go get ready, because we were going to pass by his house so he can get his boat. And we were all going to just do this together collectively. And again, mind you, this is my very first solid, really good experience of me going out there first thing in the morning. So I have no clue. I'm not dressed in the proper attire. I'm wearing shorts. Okay. I'm wearing shorts and a shirt at 4 o'clock in the morning in Washington in the month of August. Okay. So it's still cold. It's not warm. All right. So this guy obviously had the bright idea of going out there. Oh, you know what, bro? The alcohol is going to warm me up. Nah, man, it didn't. It did the opposite. I got me drowsy and cold. So I was sleepy and cold. So I got inside the vehicle and I got inside of the truck, and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to close my eyes and rest right now, bro. I'm going to take advantage. Nobody's going to notice. So me and my compadre are in the back seat of the car. And then I don't know how the hell we tricked my compa Pirin to drive, but Pirin was like pissed off and annoyed that he was like, dude, how is it that I'm driving this vehicle when it was your guys' idea, right? So me and John were like, bro, just keep driving. At this point, we're like buzzing hard, super hard. And we're just in the back. And all I remember is hearing noises when we finally got to my compa John's brother's house. I stayed asleep. And then we went up into the boonies and the lakes that they go to there. They know the fishing spots that are pretty solid. So you have to make sure that you get there early and be one of the very first boats so you can get the first catches of the day. Because otherwise the fish scatter, and from what my understanding, they go down even farther down. So you have to really, really hunt. So we get there. We finally make it to the lake. So I'm wide awake. I'm a little bit drowsy, but hey, I stayed asleep, right? And then I woke up. I'm wearing shorts and I'm cold. So I finally wake up and I start like unpacking stuff, and I start walking to the lake, to where the boat is. And I immediately get smacked in the face by like a barrage of mosquitoes. So they're like, da, 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 brah, brah. All up in here, bro. All up in here, in the face, the cheeks. My knees are getting completely butchered and destroyed. Everybody's laughing their butt off because, again, I'm being just annihilated by mosquitoes, bro. Like, I annihilated. I mean, like you would think like I was made of honey for these guys, right? So everybody's laughing, and I'm just like, bro, this is not really turning out to be a really good fishing experience for this. But I decided to push through. I went inside the boat with my compa John and my compa Pirin, and we got on the boat, and we started just fishing. Throwing it out there. They told me about what's a good bait, what makes sense, what doesn't. And it's just fishing is a patience game. And we were drinking beers in between while we're waiting, and they started catching some fish. John's brother decided to get ahead of us, so every single spot that he went to, he was getting a whole bunch of fish, but we were struggling with our area because we were coming up right behind him. So he would get all the fish and we would just kind of get the scraps. So we were like, you know what, let's just go on the opposite side of the lake and let's fish there, right? So that way we can just break it up. So we do that, and I'm not gonna lie, my first fish was about this big. If you guys don't know, as a point of reference, probably like the size of maybe, not even that, the size of this remote. So I would say maybe about what, 5 inches. That was it. And that was my big accomplishment, right? So I took a picture of it, and my buddies all saw it, and they were all laughing their ass off. And we finally make it back after 3 or 4 hours of being out on the boat. You know, we're getting drowsy. And then we get back to the house, and my compa Pirin goes, hey, you know what, says, you guys are really writing it out. Why don't you guys help me clean the fish and prep it? We got to the house. I had 2 beers, and I went to the room that we were staying in with the promise that I was going to change, take a shower, come back out. I never came back out. And neither did my compa John. We both took showers and fell asleep. And then my compa Pirin was the only one left, cutting up and prepping the fish. Oh, shit. Then we got up, and then me and John are both looking for Pirin. And he took off, apparently, in the process, and he was just blowing up our phones like, bro, you guys really just fucking went to the room and went to sleep. It was a great story. Great fishing trip, though. Had a phenomenal time. But those guys are awesome. And it's one of the reasons why I don't mind making bets with those two, or just hanging out with them, and just in general, because they're just goofy individuals. I mean, we're just funny folks. But now on to the more serious topic, and we're going to change gears here a bit. So, disclaimer and full trigger warning right now, what I'm about to tell you guys. So, with the Super Bowl happening and everything that transpired, and this is more of a somber note, we had the Bad Bunny concert, or halftime show, I like to call it. And I have very strong opinions on that particular topic that you might or might not agree with. So just be aware with it. Be aware of it. And I will be saying some stuff right now that might trigger you, might not, but the whole point of this show is I'm not going to hold back, right? I'm not going to tiptoe. So be ready and brace yourself. And here we go. The Bad Bunny show, the halftime show, was amazing. And I will explain why in just a bit. With everything that's going on with Hispanics, immigration, immigrants, ICE, the administration and sanctions, and the whole perception of minorities just in general right now is very poor. The morale, if you were to put a pulse on it, is very poor. Sometimes it feels like, as a Hispanic male, I feel like we are treated like second-class citizens, and we are portrayed as such. Instead of glorifying and portraying us like professionals, which they do exist, by the way, like business owners, like contractors, like electricians, like lawyers, paralegals, electricians, engineers, etc. I feel like there's a big stigma that we're all just laborers and immigrants. And when Bad Bunny was initially announced to be having his show at halftime, there was a lot of pushback and a lot of folks who just honestly spewed a lot of venom towards the individual without really properly pausing, which we all should do. Like they teach us in school, they said, smell the flowers, take a breath and smell the flowers. And I feel like there's a lot of people that need to do that. And I will explain why, right? We're going to dive into it. So prior to this, when the decision was made, there was a lot of news about who the musician would be. And then with all the things that were going on with ICE, there was a lot of concerns from certain parties, from a certain administration who weren't big fans of Bad Bunny. And basically, they had concerns that Bad Bunny was going to be saying something in particular that was going to be problematic, was going to be stirring up stuff, and was going to be very political, and was just going to be over the top. And they were like, oh my gosh, we're going to give this guy a stage for him to go ahead and voice his opinion about everything that's going on. And what is that going to look like? So then everybody started puckering up. And then you saw the social media with these AI generated images of Bad Bunny wearing a dress. And there's a few. There's one that he wore to an awards show, which in fact he did. And then there was another one that was AI generated with him grabbing some flowers from stage. It's got a black background. But for those of you who don't know, that one in particular is AI generated. And that's the one that a lot of them saw the most. And then it turned into, well, we don't like his image, let alone his music. Then they started dissecting his music and what it stands for, the culture, blah, 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 blah. And for some of you that don't know, the NFL is a business. And the biggest driver for revenue for the NFL are commercials, exposure, marketing, and just viewership, because that translates into dollars at the end of the day. The more views, the more money you make, the more advertising leverage you can have. I mean, with the exorbitant amount of money that they're charging the companies that are conducting advertising during the commercials is insane. But you gotta have revenue and viewership for you to justify that price. So what do? You hire and you book talent that people know who they are and people will tune in to listen to. Last year was Kendrick Lamar. He did phenomenal. This year was Bad Bunny. What was the controversy? And this is where it gets a little... Sorry, guys, I'm turning on the heater in my feet, but they're burning. Turning it on too fucking hot. And there, when you saw the show, there was no controversy. Don't let them tell you that it was, because it wasn't. Because I'm here to tell you what the show was about, if you chose not to listen because you were watching the other show. It started off him basically walking into or walking out of sugarcane fields. So he's letting you know about the Puerto Rican culture, his culture, and the slavery, the colonization that happened during that time, where slaves and Puerto Ricans and Spaniards were having kids and they became Puerto Rican, because those are the origins, right? Indigenous people with Spaniards, right? And African-American folks, people from Africa, just blending. It's a pot of different nationalities and different ethnicities that were bred in Puerto Rico, which is the majority for all nations anyways, and all the Americas. So he's explaining through this. Then he transitions to his message to his titi, his grandma, about how he always had belief in himself and given homage to her. Then you have him showing respect to his elders, and he shows them playing dominoes on a regular bench, on a regular table, which if you are from Puerto Rico or from the Caribbean, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, this is something that a lot of our older generations, like the grandpas, for example, is something that they play often. And in places when there's no electricity, there's no TV, there's no channel, you socialize with your neighbor. And the older you get, you want to hang around, so you play dominoes, you play chess, you play checkers. There was nothing controversial about that at all. Then it transitioned to him walking into a version of himself, watching a TV of himself accepting a Grammy. So he is acknowledging and celebrating himself saying that, hey, we made it. We're on this stage. Here's the Grammy that you've envisioned in your mind. Here it is, right? So he's passing the torch on to himself. So he's acknowledging that. Again, no controversy. Then he transitioned to celebrating music that got his foot in the door. Artists like Don Omar, artists like Tego Calderon, artists like Daddy Yankee, who paved the way for his music to be heard in the United States. And he gave homage to them. He had dancers performing his dances, obviously. Latinas, hey, we're very happy people and we celebrate dance how we celebrate dance. We're just dancing. So that was that. Then it transitioned to a live band and Lady Gaga performed. One of her songs, I think it's Smile or Make You Smile. I forgot what the name of the song is. The one that she sings with Bruno Mars. And they sang a salsa version of that song. Again, in homage and celebration and in honor of his culture. So this whole entire process, he's been showing you his culture, his blood, what's running through his veins, what's made him who he's been. He hasn't said anything controversial, nothing disrespectful. He's just singing his songs and giving homage to his culture. Then it transitions into the light poles and people dancing off light poles. And a lot of people didn't understand that reference. But for some of you that don't know, is that when the hurricanes hit in Puerto Rico years ago, there was absolutely zero help or effort for Puerto Rico. Zero. And the administration that we have now did not want to support at all or provide any sort of relief. So Puerto Rico was forced to fend for itself and figure it out, which they did. But unfortunately, because you're cutting corners to fix something, you're repairing something, there's an infrastructure that still hasn't been properly fixed. In Puerto Rico, there's a higher probability and a higher frequency of blackouts. It happens more often than it would here in the States. So that's what they're showing you. So he's bringing to light that one tidbit that bugs him because it impacts his people. It impacts Puerto Rico. So he celebrates that. And then he introduces then a beautiful song by Ricky Martin, somebody who he looked up to. Those of you who know Ricky Martin, great singer, a legend in his own right for many years. My guy is in his 50s and he looks like he's in his 20s. He looks younger than me, in way better shape and better looking. But the guy looks phenomenal. And he starts singing a song about Puerto Rico in Spanish. And the song is absolutely beautiful, talking about when the revolution first started and originally Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans were not allowed to demonstrate and show off their flags. So the song goes, don't let them take away the opportunity for you to celebrate your flag, and says other beautiful items. And then he says, don't let them do to us like what they did to Hawaii. And that part was controversial. I will give you that, because he is shedding light on something that happened to Hawaii many years ago. And I won't go into a history lesson on that, but Hawaii is a very, very, very key country or state in all of this, because Puerto Rico saw what happened in Hawaii, where the colonization, people took over, people from the outside came in, they bought up a whole bunch of land, and now Hawaii is predominantly owned by some people that are not even natives to the land. So Hawaii is going through its own challenges right now, where basically about 55 to 60% of people that actually were born there are leaving the island because of costs and because of jobs and opportunities. So this song shed lights on that. But again, no other controversy. He never once mentioned ICE or the administration. Then we go into the last and final part. He finally says, God bless America. And this man starts labeling all the countries in America. Not the United States, folks. Do your geography. America. pull up a map and look at South America, Central, and North America. North America is not just the United States, folks. It also includes Canada. So he starts discussing and naming every single country along the entire area. And when I tell you the pride that I had hearing my country being named and being celebrated and seeing the young man running through the crowd at Super Bowl with my flag, with pride. Then he mentioned, Puerto Rico, mentioned Cuba, mentioned Jamaica, Haiti, the Caribbean islands. It kind of, and you see all these ethnicities, all these cultures combining together and just demonstrating love, not protest. We're not breaking shit. We weren't setting up things on fire. We weren't looting. We were celebrating our culture, and that's what he wanted to bring to you. He wanted to introduce to you our culture, our background, our roots that we are proud of. And because of that, you find it disrespectful because we did not sing in English, or because you didn't understand. You didn't need to understand the language to feel the vibe and feel the narrative. And if you just didn't like his music, that is one thing. But if you're making your own decision not to watch a culture celebrate their pride and their heritage in front of you because you just can't take it, that says more about you than it does about Bad Bunny. And controversy or not, your political opinions or not, don't make it political. So you're going to sit there and tell me that when you go through to a parade, a Cinco de Mayo parade, for example, you are just frowning, pissed off because you see all these Mexican flags everywhere. You're not. When you go to Jamaica or you see Jamaican people celebrating their culture, the Caribbean, you're going to get mad because they're talking in Rastafarian and you can't understand shit. No, you're not. When you go celebrate Chinese New Year, are you frowning and turning away like when they have it on TV just because you just don't want to hear their language or because they're not speaking in English? You're not. So what was so different? Because the Super Bowl is an American celebratory thing? Yes, it is. It's American NFL. But you know what? Also, like I mentioned earlier, NFL is a business. They want to grow and they want exposure. They want Latin American kids playing football. Like we have Fernando Mendoza. We have Mr. Velasquez, who did a phenomenal defensive back job for New England Patriots. There's a lot more Latinos coming through playing football than you know. Heisman Award winners, Heisman candidates are Hispanic. They're Latino. They have a Cuban background. They have Puerto Rican backgrounds. They have a Colombian backgrounds. We're not going anywhere. You can't hide. You can't shut off all you want what's going on around you. There is so many different combinations of people getting married. There's a lot of interracial relationships and marriages that ultimately you're marrying because you love somebody, and you partner with them because you genuinely love them, not because of the color of their skin or their culture or because you can't speak their language. Love is blind. And I hate to be cheesy on that shit, but when it comes to this stuff, it was so cultural. And you see videos of people in tears crying at the show. And for some of you that don't know or understand, if I've lost you already, hopefully I haven't, and you guys are still listening to this, just pause and just let me get through this. When I see my teenage daughter and my other daughter showing pride in their heritage and culture, that they walk around now with more like pumping up their chest because they're so proud of their heritage, that translates so much to my mom and dad, to my grandparents, may they rest in peace, wherever they are. And to those of you who have parents themselves who came over to the United States and try to make a better life for you. And by you getting mad at somebody celebrating the culture, it's like you're spitting into that. If you are Hispanic or a minority, that's what you're doing. You're being disrespectful. Because that wasn't the message. The message wasn't, oh, I'm going to force the Spanish down your throat. No, it was somebody celebrating their art, celebrating their music and their culture. And they brought in all the other countries to show them to you that we are way bigger than you think. That is the overall message in all this. And it's your choice to listen or not. A lot of people chose not to and protest. But he's the controversial one. Yet nobody speaks about Green Day when they opened the ceremonies and their songs that they changed the lyrics to, specifically attacking the administration. You don't hear that, but you hear Bad Bunny. And people are like, no, I completely don't stand behind that. I'm going to watch, Turning Point USA. Okay, that's fine. You can watch what you want. You're entitled to. But in a place like this, that we are just plain and simply celebrating our culture, our background, our heritage, you can't turn that off. And for folks that are of African-American descent, because there are some black folks that were against the show. And this is going to piss some people off. I don't understand why you were against the show, because you got a lot of smoke and a lot of heat from Kendrick Lamar last year. Same situation. And we're all minorities in this, by the way. Just want to make that very clear. For some of you that say, oh, go back to your country. Let me give you guys a quick little history lesson, because apparently people don't read history these days. The United States was originally part of Native American culture. And because of colonization, that is not the case anymore. So technically they were all immigrants. During the initial stages of the United States Constitution and the United States first becoming a country, there was a lot of folks made up of a lot of immigrants. People from Italy, people from Ireland, people from Scotland, made up of immigrants of all shapes and colors. They created a constitution for freedom. And they won their freedom. And they wrote a constitution to give their rights to everybody from different colors, shapes, and sizes to have opportunities in this country and be very different. And yet we are arguing a point saying that we don't want that anymore. Why? What gives us the right to monitor and silence freedom and pride in who we are and our heritage? That's not right. So if you are one of those folks that gets mad or upset because somebody's speaking about their culture in their own language, if you immediately belittle that individual in your mind and you think that they are second-class citizens just because they can't speak fluent English, then you're a bigot and you're a racist, and you need to look within. I don't care if you say, oh, well, I have friends at work. No. Don't give me that nonsense. You're just being fake. Because if this show really bugged you that much, it says a lot more about you. And you need to seriously reevaluate yourself and where you stand, because right now, the way you sit, based on your judgment, you're right here. Everybody else is here because they're accepting and welcoming of culture. What gives you the right to deny somebody else from celebrating theirs? None. So you decide. But I thought the show was great. That's my opinion on it. I thought it was phenomenal. And whether it was Kendrick Lamar, whether it's going to be K-pop and Korean next year, whether there's going to be somebody from Asia, somebody from India singing their culture and celebrating their culture, I will embrace it every single time, because they should be proud to celebrate their culture. They should feel blessed to celebrate their language, their ancestry. You cannot get rid of ancestral love and what's inside our bloodlines. You can't get rid of that. I don't care what melanin you are. You weren't just born here and this is all I am. No, there's more to you than that. Look up your last names if you don't believe me. Half of you are probably from Europe. So we'll leave it at that, man. I mean, that's just really like what I thought about the show. I hate to end it on such an angry note, but it just really pissed me off, and I still do. I'm embracing more of what it meant. And it was a unification of all Latin American countries, letting you know, the public and the United States, that we do matter. We are people. We are individuals. We are not just laborers that do your gardening. We are not just folks that do your roofing. We are not just cooks. And it's funny too. That's the one part that I find funny. People are racist and bigots when it's convenient, but yet when you're hungry and you're craving for a burrito or a taco, I see you at the taco truck trying to talk in Spanish. Puedo agarrar un burrito? You know how hypocritical you sound? That you are turning away from Bad Bunny because he's not speaking in Spanish, but yet you are over there getting burritos and tacos and going to a taqueria because you're craving Mexican food? Get the hell out of here with that nonsense, dude. You're being a hypocrite. So get the head out of your rear, accept what you are, embrace it, or change it. But don't undervalue or belittle someone that's celebrating their culture. If anything, you should be right there alongside them and showing pride, because you know what? There's a lot of people that love the American flag. There's a lot of U.S. patriots out there that love the U.S. to heart. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You celebrate it, you enjoy it, you put it on pickup trucks. You're like, America, you know what I mean? Like bald eagles everywhere, you know what I'm saying? Like that's all right. That's your right. Nobody's going to take that away, but don't take the rights of somebody else celebrating their heritage and their country, because that's what racism is. And until we stop doing that shit and dividing ourselves, we're not going to accomplish anything. We need to unify and be one culture and be supportive. Otherwise, we're going to be constantly taken advantage of. So, with that being said, thank you very much for staying on board. Again, I want to say I'm sorry for just taking down this road, but you know, this whole Bad Bunny thing just really set me off, and I thought it was stupid. And Bad Bunny's message was way bigger than that. And if you think he's a controversial figure, before I digress, I recommend you look into Kid Rock and who he was before all of a sudden he's loved by everybody. Kid Rock was a drug addict and an alcoholic, sang about underage kids and women. There's lyrics. He's said it in interviews. But that's the face of Turning Point USA. That's who you want to support. You much rather listen to that than listen to somebody who's introducing and showing you his culture, because you just can't stand it. So what are you? And if you're not a bigot and if you're not a racist, then what are you? Because those actions that happened during the Super Bowl says a lot about a lot of people. And if you have kids, that's what you're showing your kids. And that's not right, because you are harboring and raising a generation that's going to be just like you. And are you okay with that? So with that, good night. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back to the normal shenanigans probably next week. Thinking I'm probably going to do it on Friday or Monday of next week. I am going to be promoting this episode just because I feel really passionate about it. Again, for any ideas or any thoughts in regards to what I just said, please leave a comment. Feel free. Give me all the smoke. I really don't care. I tried to keep this as kid-friendly as possible with less profanity, just because I really want my message to be heard to you. I don't want you to listen to it and tune away. All right, so I want you to continue engaging because this is what this channel is. Let's talk. And if you feel it, thank you. If you don't, que te vaya bien, que te vaya con Dios. So I'm going to say this last part in Spanish. So, con mucho orgullo, gracias por escuchar este canal. Somos latinos, somos hispanos y soy orgulloso de ser nicaragüense y ser hispano. Que Dios los bendiga.